Good morning, and thanks for tuning in. Yesterday in our screencast, we learned a few things about how to jump in and get started with Roastmaster. We learned how to create a roast and configure it with a roasted item and a weight. And we also learn how to add some data curves to collect data during the roast. Then we introduced the roast analyzer and learned how to interact with our curve data and discussed some of the toolbar items and what their functions were. And finally, we learned how to start the roast and interact with our curves here to manually enter node data throughout the roast, as well as some crack information and some roast notes. So now we're left with a finished roast and a visual record of how we performed it and the results that we got from the beans throughout its duration. So let's say we're very happy with the results we've achieved. We've cupped this and it scored very well. And now we want to take this information and be able to easily and reliably reproduce this roast in the future. How do we do that? Well, the answer is by creating a roast profile from this roast. So let's learn how to do that. The first thing we'll do is exit out of the analyzer. Now, Roastmaster makes it very easy to turn a roast into a profile. All that you have to do is tap the Actions button here in the toolbar and choose Create Profile from this roast, and we're presented with our new profile. Now, the first thing Roastmaster wants to know is what curves we want to use for reference curves in this profile. So what's happened is that Roastmaster has looked at this roast that we're using to create the profile, and it's seen that we have two data curves in that roast, bean temp and gas. So it wants to know which of these curves that we want to use in future roasts for targeting. These are called reference curves. Now, we actually want both of these curves available to us for targeting, so we'll select both bean temp and gas and tap Done. Next, it wants to know which of these curves we want to create curve templates from. Now, curve templates in Roastmaster are a means to ease your workflow so that whenever you use this profile and want to record new data, you don't have to go and make these curves manually. So if you have curve templates defined in this profile, Roastmaster will see that and create new blank identical curves in the roast as data curves that you can use for data logging. Now, for this example, we're going to select both bean temp and gas, but your needs may vary here. For instance, you might not be concerned with recording new data in future roasts that use this roast profile. You may just have your bean temps and gas reference curves and stay on target with that. Or perhaps you might only want to record bean temp and just reference the gas flow. Whatever the case, feel free to suit this to your needs, but we do want to show how curve templates work. So we're going to keep both of these selected and tap Done, and our profile is complete. We can look here in the reference curve section and see that Roastmaster has indeed given us both bean temp and gas as instructed, and that these are the actual curves from our roast. We can see that bean temp has 24 nodes and gas has 4 nodes. And we can also see that we've been given matching curve templates based on our selection. We have a bean temp and a gas, and that both of these are empty curves with no nodes. So these two sets of curves are going to work together in future roast. We'll have the reference curves in the background to target, and we'll have matching data curves, courtesy of our curve templates here, in the foreground to log data to. Now, if we scroll down, we can see that Roastmaster has also filled in duration and crack information from our source roast here in our profile. This, along with our reference curves, is going to be visible in the analyzer whenever we use this profile as background target information. so that we'll have not only a record of the temperatures and the gas settings that we want to hit, but also the first crack and duration that we want to target as well. So the only thing left to do here is to give this guy a name. So we'll tap here and say we're going to call this Kenya, and finally just save it. And we have our first roast profile, which is based directly on the information contained in this roast. So at this point, you may wonder, where did it go? Roast profiles live inside roasters. So whenever you use this create profile from roast feature, you're going to need to make sure that you have a roaster tagged in the roast first, because ultimately the profile will need some place to live. So if we want to see this profile we've just created, all we need to do is view the roaster detail screen. Now to do that, we could navigate back and choose roasters and choose our roaster and see its details here. But since we're already here in the roast console, the easiest thing to do is just tap the info button next to our roaster, and we can navigate directly there. And in profiles, we can see we now have one profile, and it is the Kenya that we just created. So let's see how to put our new profile to use. In the roast list here, we could create a new roast just like we've done in the past, but there is a quick shortcut that we can use instead, and that's to long tap on a roast, and Roastmaster will let you make a copy of this roast. And we now have a new roast of our Kenyan peaberry that is marked ready to roast. So if we tap it, we can see that we were indeed given 2 pounds of the Kenya as a roasted item, and that our Probatino roaster has been assigned. And all we need to do to configure this roast with both reference curves and data curves is to tap edit to put it into edit mode, and then tap profile and choose our new Kenya profile. Now we can immediately see that the console graph is showing us some curve information here. If we want to, though, get a better idea of what's going on, we can scroll down and take a look at the curves themselves. So we can see we have 2 data curves, and these are copies that were made for us in this roast, courtesy of the curve templates in our profile. And these are the ones that we're going to be logging data to during the live roast. We also have our 2 reference curves. These are being loaned to us from the profile that we're currently using, which of course is our new profile. So we're ready to perform this roast. Let's go ahead and launch the roast analyzer and take a look at what we see. Well, we see our 2 data curves, but we're also expecting to see some reference information here, but it's not displayed. So where is this information? Well, the solution lies down here in the bottom left of the toolbar in the next toolbar button that we're going to talk about, and that's the targeting mode button. And when we tap this button, we enter profile targeting mode, and we can see all of the information that we're after from our reference curves. We can see our bean temp curve and our gas curve, and these are automatically configured as dotted lines. We could change that if we wanted to by invoking our curve selector and toggling them on or off, or setting their display type to be solid, but we'll use the default here. And we also have our 2 data curves that we're about to record data to in this roast. And with just a few taps of choosing our roaster profile here in this roast, we've configured it with both our reference curves and our data curves, and we're ready to start. So we just tap the start button and our roast is underway. We start by entering our initial gas value, and then our initial charge temperature of 200. And again, just like we did last time, we're going to input temperature data every 30 seconds, and we're going to input the gas control value changes as we make them on the roaster. Now we can see that our bean temps are running a little bit hot, so let's make an adjustment on the roaster and back off on the gas just a little to pull some of this heat out. Now, in just a few seconds, we're going to have a control curve value change in our reference target curve of this profile. So Roastmaster will alert you to these events if you have a target control curve on screen. In other words, it's displaying with a dotted line. When its value changes, Roastmaster will alert you to that and give an audible cue so that if your attention is diverted at the moment, you'll get your head back in the game and be able to make that adjustment in time on the roaster. So let's slow it back down here, and it's time to enter our final node and then terminate this roast. And there you have it. Well, hopefully you've gotten a good idea from this screencast how to not only incorporate profiles into your workflow, but how to create them quickly. And now that you know this information, I'll encourage you to make heavy use of roast profiles. Personally, I never roast without having a roast profile, and to pay a lot of attention to how you build your profile library. Roastmaster provides a number of features to help you organize your profile library and annotate your profiles and even experiment with them via profile snapshots. So it's in your best interest to build a very versatile profile library with profiles that are suited to particular green attributes like region or country or growing elevation. And in the end, they will definitely help you make your roast better. So tune in for the future screencasts we're going to have in this series of Roasting with Roastmaster. And we're going to keep going and discuss some of the other advanced concepts of roast and data logging and roast events, and the list goes on. So tune back in, and thanks for joining us here today in learning how to get the most out of using Roastmaster.